Hey everyone, welcome back, or if you're new here, buckle up, because tonight we're stepping into ancient Egypt like never before. Imagine a world where women weren't just side characters in history. They were powerful, adored, mysterious, and honestly, the gold standard of beauty for thousands of years. We're talking about the women of the great Pharaohs era. Queens, everyday Nile-side moms, lovers, dreamers. What makes them so special? More love letters, legal papers, prayers, and straight-up steamy poetry survive from them than for almost any other ancient culture. Yeah, you heard that right. More than the Greeks, Romans, you name it. Back then, if you asked anyone around the Mediterranean, who's the most stunning woman in the world? The answer was always the same. An Egyptian woman. That elegant linen dress flowing in the breeze, killer eye makeup that protected from the sun while making her gaze hypnotic, gold jewelry catching the light. That aura of mystery and sophistication. Egyptian beauty wasn't just skin deep. It was magic, ritual, power. And guess what? A lot of those secrets still influence how we see beauty today. Stick with me through this series because we're about to uncover it all. Heart-pounding love poems that'll make you blush, jaw-dropping artifacts in museums like the Met right here in New York. Real stories of ordinary women who lived epic lives along the Nile. Beauty standards come and go, but some things, timeless. And ancient Egyptian women nailed it. Ready? Let's dive in. Okay, picture this. Over 3,000 years ago, someone scribbled these words on papyrus, and they still hit hard today. If only I were your mirror, so you'd look at no one but me. If only I were your favorite dress, so you'd wear me every single day. If only I were the cool water that touches your skin. If only I were that rare perfume you dab in your neck. If only I were the sash hugging your breasts, or the necklace against your throat. If only I were the sandals on your feet, so every step you take, you're walking on me. Whoa, right? This is from Papyrus Harris 500, sitting in the British Museum, straight out of around 1300 BCE. These aren't stiff, formal poems. These are raw, passionate, full-on desire. Forget the myth that ancient Egyptians were all stoic statues. Their love poetry is fire, tender, intense, way sexier than you probably expected from 3,000 years ago. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole treasure trove of this stuff waiting. But hold that thought. We're building up to even bigger reveals. If we're talking Egyptian women who still stop us in our tracks, we have to start with this absolute masterpiece. Right now, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, a tiny fragment of yellow jasper. Just lips. Sensual, full, perfectly carved lips from the 14th century BCE. They call them the yellow lips of Queen Tiye, beloved wife of Amenhotep III, mom to Akhenaten, powerhouse in her own right. No eyes, no nose, no full face, just those lips. And yet, they scream femininity, tenderness, pure sensuality. You can't look away. This one piece proves it. Real beauty doesn't need the whole picture to hit you hard. It's eternal. Fun fact. This little gem once belonged to Lord Carnarvon, the guy who funded the discovery of King Tut's tomb in 1922. Now it's yours to see at the Met. But queens like Tiye, they're only part of the story. Today we're mostly shining a light on the everyday women. The ones who lived, loved, and shaped Egypt from the ground up. Walk through any major museum, and you'll lock eyes with them. Coffin masks, mummy portraits, funerary faces staring back across millennia. These aren't just pretty pictures. They're real women, unique, individual, full of life we can almost feel. Look at the inlaid eyes sparkling with personality, the gentle smiles, the quiet strength. Some from the 14th century BCE in the Louvre, others in Berlin's collection. Each one different, each one captivating. They make you wonder, what made her laugh? Was she happy? How tough was life on the Nile back then? Before we jump into their daily world, their jobs, families, freedoms, we've got to understand one huge thing. Women in ancient Egypt had rights and independence that blew away what Greek or Roman ladies usually got. Why? It goes way back to the worship of the mother goddess. Nurturing, powerful, central to everything Egyptian.
Okay, let's go way back to the very dawn of Egyptian civilization. Right here, a fragment from a painted vessel, mid-4th millennium BCE, from the Naqada culture burials. Look at this incredible scene. The Nile Valley framed by triangular desert mountains on both sides. The river flows below. Flamingos stand along the banks. And gliding across the sacred waters is this holy boat. On that boat, 2 special cabins. Little shrines or reliquaries that would have held divine statues. And here's the genius of Egyptian art. What's actually inside is shown on top for us to see. In the center, 2 massive female figures. Their heads like solar discs, hips dramatically curved and emphasized. These are the 2 great goddesses, the mother and the daughter. In Egyptian art, size equals status. Remember that? These 2 towering women are the absolute center of this universe. Sure, male deities are there too, honored on the boat. But make no mistake, the goddesses dominate. And why? Because Egypt is Africa. Deep in the traditions of tropical African cultures, especially before written records, the mother goddess was central. Elements of matriarchy, reverence for the life-giving feminine. All of that flows straight into Egypt from the continent's ancient worldview. We can only guess at the full rituals and beliefs. But this powerful cult of the mother goddess set the stage for the incredibly high status women enjoyed in Egyptian society, from queens to everyday women, as we'll see in legal documents later. Now spin this vessel around. It's in the Metropolitan Museum collection, and boom, the Nile Valley, the boat, the goddesses. In one frame on the left, the goddess is dancing, arms raised high, mimicking the horns of the sacred cow, the great giver of milk and nourishment, one of the Nile's most holy animals. And in another frame, the divine marriage, the union of female and male powers, a sacred bond that guarantees life, fertility, and the ongoing renewal of the universe. This is cosmic stuff, right there on a 5,500-year-old pot. Over in the Brooklyn Museum, there's this absolute gem I love showing everyone. The famous Bird Lady statue, also from the 4th millennium BCE. She has a bird-like face. Think of her as the great golden falcon soaring across the endless blue Egyptian sky. Her breasts are prominently emphasized. She's the giver of milk, linked to immortality. And those wide, powerful hips, she births the entire world. Again, in her divine dance, arms thrown back, echoing the horns of the sacred cow once more. This is where our understanding of the earthly Egyptian woman begins. These goddess images are the blueprint. The ancient Greeks got it right when they said Egypt was a land overflowing with divine presence. The gods felt so close along the Nile. Egyptian goddesses personify every stage a woman goes through: childbirth, sacred marriage, love, widowhood. Literally every phase of life mirrored in these divine figures. So yeah, a quick word on that. But first, one more reminder. So many forms of worship, women's communities, and worldviews that shaped how we see women in the Pharaohs era, they all trace back to this pre-dynastic time, the 4th millennium BCE, even deeper into pre-written culture. And here's something really special. In the Cairo Museum collection, a vessel with women painted right along the rim. They're dressed in white, holding hands in a circle, a dance or ritual chain. This looks like a water-related ceremony, because the vessel would have been filled with water. In later Egyptian thought, water becomes the ultimate life-giving feminine force. When it unites with the dry, fertile male earth, new life sprouts, renewal, victory over death, rebirth. These early women's circles, these water rituals, they're the roots of everything that made Egyptian women so empowered, so central to life, magic, and eternity. And trust me, we're just getting started uncovering how deep this goes.
One of the oldest goddesses in the entire Egyptian pantheon, a true embodiment of multifaceted femininity, is Neith. She's the Great Lady of Se, the ancient city in the northwest delta whose temple sadly survives today only as a few walls and fragments of a sacred lake. In Egyptian texts, Neith is described as a great androgyne creator, 6 parts woman, 1 part man. That tiny masculine element, it's exactly what allows her to create the world through 7 sacred utterances. Secret words containing the hidden essence of everything our universe is made of. This idea later echoed in other cultures. Think of the 7-fold laughter of the creator god in the Torah. But in Egypt, it's pure Neith. Like so many Egyptian goddesses, she personifies wildly different principles of femininity all at once. On one side, she's the goddess of weaving. She weaves the great white linen cloth that transforms light into material form, literally turning divine light into fabric. That same cloth wraps the bodies of the gods, or gets cut into narrow strips to mummy wrap the dead, just like Osiris was once wrapped for immortality. On the other side, no surprise the Greeks identified her with Athena. She's a supreme archer, goddess of war, mistress of secret amulets. So many aspects, creation, combat, craftsmanship, all wrapped in one powerful feminine being. And here's a stunning example. A magnificent statuette of Neith from the 6th to 4th centuries BCE, now in a private collection. When we talk about her, one of the most beautiful creation myths Egypt left us always comes to mind. In the beginning, from cosmic darkness, a sacred cow leaps forth, Neith herself, emerging from the great primordial ocean of chaos. She opens her eyes, and with that first gaze, seeing what her heart already knew, she creates the universe. The sacred cow falls onto the newly formed earth. The flood that surges upward behind her from the abyss crashes down as a life-giving stream, the Nile itself, around which Egypt will be built. She births the sun god, creates the world of gods and goddesses, spirits, and that whole astonishing Egyptian cosmos. Egyptian thought never locked into one single creation story. Instead, multiple cosmogonies existed side by side, each one adding layers. One of them, as you've probably guessed, centers entirely on Neith. To the ancient Egyptians, all these stories weren't contradictions. They were complementary ways to help human minds grasp divine truths that, by nature, were one and separate from ordinary consciousness. Another incredibly ancient goddess, Hathor, literally House of Horus. Horus is the golden falcon, so Hathor is the sky itself, the dwelling place of the divine. She's an ancient mother goddess, sky goddess, protector of the dead, source of great life. Look at this breathtaking wooden statue from the 4th century BCE, made of cedar, one of my absolute favorites. It's in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Here she is as a seductive goddess of love, the one Egyptian texts call she who knows all the secrets of the female heart. That signature wig with the 2 tall feathers, the side locks of youth, and cow horns. It's because she's the giver of sacred milk, the milk of immortality, the milk of life. The sacred cow's elements are woven right into her iconography in that uniquely Egyptian, almost playful way. And on the left, the same Hathor, painted on the underside of a sarcophagus lid from the time of Amenhotep, around the turn of the 11th to 10th centuries BCE, now in the Rijksmuseum van Oudheden in Leiden. She's not just the source of life, she's the force that lets Egyptians conquer death. Here, with her solar disk headdress framed by cow horns, she holds the Ankh, symbol of life, and the Wa scepter, power, dominion, strength. As the primordial mother, she takes every deceased person back into her embrace so their transformation into a shining spirit, their immortality, happens smoothly, painlessly, under her mighty protection. That's why from the 4th millennium BCE onward, Egyptians revered her as the source of vital energy in the universe, the great solar mother and solar daughter at once. And at the same time, she's the intercessor standing at the threshold of the afterlife, advocating for every soul that passes through. Of course, when we talk about goddesses as heavenly prototypes for the Egyptian woman, we can't skip Isis. She's not as ancient as Hathor. Her name first appears in the pyramid texts around the 25th century BCE, but from there on, Isis becomes one of the single greatest symbols of Egyptian civilization. Above all, she's the Great Mother, literally. Great Mother of the God is one of her core titles. Look at the sculptural group on the left. Isis offering her breast to her infant son Horus. Here, he symbolizes the victory of day over night, the new world born through the goddess. After overcoming every obstacle death threw at life, she triumphs. And right beside it, another magnificent sculpture from the turn of the 7th to 6th centuries BCE, a perfect personification of femininity. To her left, the goddess Mut, the great heavenly queen and symbol of royal motherhood. To her right, Nephthys, her sister, who appears in countless Egyptian texts as a protector of the dead. And in front of her, a massive cobra wearing the crown of Lower Egypt, Wadjet, one of the oldest goddesses in the pantheon, patron of the Nile Delta in the northern borders of Egypt. Just like Neith in her temples, Isis was revered as a divine androgen, one of the great forces that creates the universe. And now look at this on the right. Probably one of the most striking images of the goddess, and honestly one of the greatest masterpieces in the Egyptian Museum in Turin. This piece dates to the 14th century BCE. The goddess's face bears an uncanny resemblance to Queen Tiye, the wife of Amenhotep III. We started with today. No photograph does it justice. It's carved from black basalt, full of sparkling quartz inclusions and schist flecks. When you walk around it in the Turin Museum, the whole statue literally glimmers and sparkles. It's a sacred, breathtaking sight. Beyond her traditional Hathor-style headdress and other royal symbols, what really grabs me here is the Wa scepter she's holding. Traditionally, the Wa scepter belongs to male gods. It's a symbol of masculine power and dominion, yet Isis grasps it firmly. By wielding this male divine insignia, she once again stands as the source of life, the creator of the universe, and she's so much more.
a goddess who walked the exact path of an earthly woman. She was once a queen on Earth, wife to Osiris. After her brother Set murdered Osiris, she became the Great Widow. First, she embodied perfect loyalty, searching tirelessly for her husband's body. Then, supreme motherhood. She conceived Horus from Osiris's corpse through her magic and labors. And despite every hardship, she raised the heir to the throne, Horus. So truth could triumph again, so cosmic order could return to its axis, so the great universal harmony, what Egyptians called Mat, could overcome lies, injustice, and chaos, Isfet. Isis isn't just a goddess. She's the ultimate mirror of resilience, devotion, and creative power in the face of loss. She's the one who turns grief into rebirth. And that's why she became the most beloved and widespread deity in all of ancient Egypt. In the ancient Egyptian worldview, men and women stood on completely equal pedestals. This wasn't just in religious ideas. It extended to social norms too. We'll get to the legal side in a bit. It's astonishing when you compare it to the very low status women had in other ancient Near Eastern cultures. Mesopotamia, for example, or even in supposedly enlightened classical Greece. But the Egyptians saw the main difference between men and women not as superiority or inferiority, but in a special life force that filled every human being. I won't dive deep into the full Egyptian idea that a person consists of 9 different components. That's a whole other topic. For now, let's focus on one key part: the vital force called Ka. Ka is that life energy that comes from a single divine source, passed down through the family line from father to son. That's why it's often described exactly that way, as the primary life force of this world. Look at these 2 highlighted fragments. In the red rectangle, the male Ka symbol, 2 raised arms. Those arms connect the earthly world to the heavenly realm, reaching upward like a bridge between humans and the gods. For men, the vital force is Ka. For women, it's different. It's called Hemus or Hemoset. In the turquoise rectangle, that's the symbol of Hemus. It traces back to one of the oldest emblems of the goddess Neith, a background with 2 crossed arrows. Neither Ka nor Hemus is better or weaker. They are complementary forces, 2 halves that together make the full human experience complete. But here's the key distinction. Direct interaction with the world of the gods usually happen through Ka. That's why certain rituals, especially funerary ones, emphasize the faithful eldest son becoming the Sem priest, the caretaker of the ancestors' cult, the one who performs offerings, recites names, and keeps the deceased vital in the afterlife. Of course, not every family had sons. In those cases, the eldest daughter could step in and become the Sem priestess of the mortuary cult. She performed the exact same rituals. Still, the Egyptians saw the core difference between men and women as this: Ka for men, Hemus for women. That shaped how each could connect to the worlds of the living, the dead, the gods, and the ancestors. We need to remember this distinction from the very beginning. It carries huge weight when we look at certain historical figures in ancient Egypt. And here's a perfect example. This relief from the 15th century BCE, from the mortuary temple of the female pharaoh Hatshepsut at Deir el-Bahri. Hatshepsut ruled Egypt for 22 incredibly successful years. She wore male royal regalia, the ritual false beard, the full kingly attire, everything. Yet on the walls of her own mortuary temple, she developed an entire theological system to explain how she, possessing only Hemus, not Ka, could still act as a full king. serving as the perfect intermediary between the earthly world and the divine heavens. She didn't hide or downplay her femininity. She embraced it and built a divine justification around it. That's how deeply rooted this idea of complementary equality was in Egyptian thought.
So there you have it. In ancient Egypt, men and women weren't ranked against each other. They complemented each other like Ka and Hemus, two vital forces balancing the cosmos. Even a queen like Hatshepsut could claim full divine kingship, proving femininity was no barrier to power. This equality wasn't just talk, it shaped laws, rituals, and everyday life. But we're only scratching the surface. Next time, the real legal rights of Egyptian women. Property, divorce, inheritance, and how ordinary women actually lived with more freedom than almost anywhere else in the ancient world. Stay tuned. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Ancient Egypt keeps surprising us, and the best is yet to come.